Welcome to the Shabby Detective, yet another Columbo podcast. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me, of course, is Mr. Chris Dashu.
Bună ziua, which means hello in Romanian.
Why are we speaking Romanian on this episode? Well,
have you spoken a lick of Romanian? It's like, have you spoken Romanian
no,
yet?
never. I'll never let it happen either.
Neither does Columbo, to be fair, apparently.
Yeah, Romanian will not pass these lips. It's a bizarre language because I know it's a Romance language, right?
Is it?
Yeah, it feels like it at times. And I know there are people speaking other languages. There's definitely an Italian guy in here. There's people that speak English, including a very brusque guy at the very beginning.
It is a Romance, the Eastern Romance subrange of the Romance languages.
Yeah, because at times it sounds,
English or like French, Spanish adjacent.
Yeah. But then there are times where it feels more, like you said, Eastern European, where I'm just like, oh, okay, more of a, what would that, almost like a Serbian type of language or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
A little bit of that going on.
Yeah. It's got a groovy soundtrack. We are talking about the 1979 film Uncle Marin, the Billionaire. I might have screwed up and called it Uncle Marin, the Millionaire at one point, but this guy's a billionaire, guys. It was allegedly very, very popular in its time, and I feel like we are very prepared to talk about this film because it feels very similar to other things that we have discussed over the last few years. It stars Amza Pellea as Uncle Marin, as well as Mr. Marlon Juvet. Yes, he's playing two roles, and I gotta say, this guy does a really good job when it comes to playing two roles.
Is anyone else as confused as I am as to why we're talking about this film? Mike hasn't answered it yet. Mike has done the old, not gonna address it. It's called burying the lead. That's what I'm refusing to let him do. I'd like to mention, we're talking about this Uncle Marin, the Billionaire, because randomly Columbo is in it. Because Mike and I was joking with Mike before we turned on the recorder that I sat down to watch this, and about 30 minutes in, I was like, wait, what am I watching this for? Because it's a Romanian comedy that has all the problems of a foreign language comedy film, which is a lot of the comedy is lost in the cultural isms that I, being a Western English speaker, don't understand about Romanian. But I shit you not, 45 minutes into this movie, a actor pretending to be Columbo shows up and just starts making Columbo noises is the only way I can describe it. Mike, this is one of the weirdest things you've ever asked me to watch, but thank you for asking me to watch it because this, I think, really speaks to, for me, the multicultural appeal of the mystery story and the multicultural appeal of Peter Falk, which is such a crazy phrase to say, but at the same time, he's not in this film. But we have an actor who is literally billed as in Detective Columbo, who is doing an impersonation or an evocation, I would say, because he never really says much. Like he's given maybe half a paragraph's worth of lines, if that. You cheeky bastard, you. You're not going to address why we're watching this. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Columbo Show, where we're talking about a Romanian comedy.
Well, of course, that's what you do, right?
That's why you're here. I like how you were like, it's so similar to so many other things we watch. I was like, what in God's name? It's maybe similar to things we watch on our own shows. Sure.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. Yes, we will definitely get into that. I was feeling a lot of Francis Weber in this. I was also feeling a lot of one of the worst movies we ever saw in our lives, Funny Money. But this is like the good version of Funny Money.
Yeah, it has that weird comedy of errors and mishaps that only, like, we don't see these kinds of movies anymore, primarily because I think as audiences, we're less interested in the kind of, I would say, elevated reality is what this always feels like. Like, everything feels so faded. I would say Shakespearean, but like, I'm not like in a level of quality Shakespearean way, but in terms of like, one person and another person happen to be at the same hotel and they just happen to look like one another, even though they've never run into one another or seen each other before. And one of them is a literal billionaire, like in his country where the other guy lives. Like, there are some things that are just like elevated reality. Again, don't take it as reality because I don't think it's attempting to be reality. But like you said, it reminds me of some of those French comedies like Dinner for Schmucks or all those Francis Weber films. Like they weren't pretending to be reality. They were kind of existing just a step outside of reality in the more elevated way.
Yeah, like when Uncle Marin, who is the bumpkin character, we can call him because that's a pretty traditional type of character.
He's like a peasant, I think is what they call him.
Coming in from the outside world and coming to this resort town. He's got his briefcase full of leeks. And his nephew is there.
My briefcase of leeks.
And he's got his nephew there, and his nephew's like, hey, listen, Uncle, I can get you a room at this great resort place. I know the guy who runs the counter, or the guy that runs the counter might be his brother, maybe. I don't remember who that is. I love that the nephew character is Google, but every time I saw it, I kept seeing Grogu. So I was just like, oh, Grogu's in this movie? This predates The Mandalorian so many years.
All caps, too, mind you. Gogu. In the version I was watching, it was Gogu, Goku. Like, I did not realize, I thought that was a title of a character. I didn't realize that was a character's name until about 2/3 of the way I was done watching the film, and I went and looked on Wikipedia, and I was like, no, this is just the guy's name, just spelled really strangely in the subtitles. Because again, in the first couple minutes of the movie, I thought it was going to be an English language film because the first words you hear are in English. No. No. It is very much in Romanian.
I was confused as well. And I was like, oh gosh, is this a dubbed film? I don't really know. But this one, it's so easy to find subtitled versions of it. That's what's leading me to believe that this was a pretty popular movie because you can find it on so many different sites. I'm watching a version right now off of YouTube that looks really good because I think the very first one I downloaded looked horrible, but this one looks good. Subtitles are in sync, which is nice. So everything is looking pretty sharp here. I actually found this one to be pretty darn funny. And yeah, I don't remember how I ran across this as far as Columbo in other languages. Maybe it was the article about the, Hungarian statue of Columbo and dog that is just out there. I know
which has an explanation of.
Oh, that bullshit story that Peter Falk tells. That whole thing about the people were protesting and taking to the streets because of Columbo not being on the air or being, they thought it was canceled.
I believe so. I thought that's what that was in reference to, right?
It totally could be, but I've read so many times
than the RoboCop statue,
Oh, definitely. And it probably wasn't crowdfunded either.
No, it's more like that Henry Winkler statue that they have in Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
Hey.
That horrific one of Lucille Ball. Have you seen that one?
Yes, I have. That one's hilarious. Well, the original one, they replaced it. The first one, that was the statue equivalent of that, when that woman redid the painting of Jesus and turned him into a monkey. Ecce homo became ecce mono, behold the monkey. Yeah, that's what that reminded me of. Like, again, Columbo is so popular internationally. And again, like here in the United States, I think we sometimes, especially now, take for granted the proliferation of American culture eastward. Not so much westward, but definitely eastward towards like Europe. And especially, say what you will about the fall of the Soviet Union and the coming down of the Berlin Wall, but part of it was due to American culture. Like American culture had a huge hand in that. And something like Columbo made a huge impact overseas because I think, and I know you would agree in some capacity, like the mystery story came from there. So in a lot of ways, it's like the story kind of returning home with an American spin on it. And I can't speak to the popularity of other American things like Columbo in Eastern Europe, and maybe you can. I'd be curious if that's a thing, but I do love that Columbo is so multicultural. It's like, oh, there's a statue of him in Hungary, but why? Because it was super popular. Like, I don't know.
Well, we're going to see some Japanese films later on, not during this break, but between one of our seasons, or maybe we're going to wrap up things. I can't remember when those films came out, but there's definitely there's both the Japanese Columbo, But then there's also a character who acts very much like Columbo, but doesn't dress like Columbo. And we might talk a little bit about one of those episodes as well. As far as the influence of American culture on, Western Europe or even Eastern Europe, I remember how big Dallas was. And I remember there being an episode of The Young Ones.
E.T., what is the meaning of this? I've just received this memo. In the 1 day since you inherited Global Oil, you've managed to dispose of assets worth over $6 billion. What is this? All annual profits to be donated to the Brothers of the Soil Commune in Wales, England. All petroleum and oil to be sold at a retail price of 2p a gallon. All oil wells to be given tax-free to anyone really nice you can find.
I'm sure films probably had more of an impact, but yeah, television. And that was why, so many countries were just like, yeah, we're not having American TV on our system, or we have to put in standards like the whole Canadian content thing where we have to have our own shows. We cannot just import everything from America.
That's the interesting part of the conversation, the push that becomes how much of the American culture do you accept and how much do you reject? And, like you said, the idea of creating your own content does come out of the need to more hew closer to the content that you as a society are more interested in making versus, like you said, trying to be. And again, like watching American content, I'm assuming in places like, East Berlin would have been viewed as subversive. I mean, again, like it's literally indirect repudiation of everything that their country, quote, believes in, unquote. I mean, obviously there were so many people on the other side of the wall who did not agree with or believe in anything that was going on. But we're talking about a film that came out in 1979. It's a Romanian film, which means this is in that area on top of everything else. Like, we're talking about a country that is sitting in the same area of the world of the USSR and smack dab in Eastern Europe. Like, it's so crazy to me that they were just like, you know what? We have this comedy that doesn't need to have Columbo in it. But because of how big of a deal Columbo is, we don't have to do anything other than have a guy on screen doing this role in what, like you said, and I've also seen in my research, is widely considered to be one of the most important Romanian comedies in terms of viewership amongst the populace. I mean, again, I'm not even sure we could agree as a country what the fuck our analog would be for that. We don't have as a culture oh, this is one of our most well-known comedies. There is nothing like that. Because there's such a breadth of content. So to have this movie have a Columbo-esque or straight up Columbo character in it, I think also just speaks volumes to how big of a deal the Columbo character was for Peter Falk. And I don't think, and I know this might be controversial, I don't think he was ever wrong for feeling like he had a level of ownership over that character because of this because like you said, there are characters that are Columbo-esque, but if you really want to do it right, he's got to be a short guy with the hair and the jacket and the mannerisms, which all come from Peter Falk.
Absolutely. And this guy's trying his best to channel Falk while he's doing this. But it is so odd that he just, like you said, he just shows up. It's not like he's even central to the plot. He's kind of just wandering through the set at times. I mean, there is a mystery in this, suppose. There's a kidnapping that's going on. The billionaire's daughter is kidnapped. We see that pretty much right off the bat. There's 2 sets of gangsters at least, because they meet up towards the end of the movie, and they, you think there's going to be a big rumble, but then they end up agreeing with each other. That whole 51% thing that's going on towards the end of this. But yeah, it's much more in that comic vein because these gangsters are 100% bumbling. You never really feel that they're much of a threat at all. Uncle Marin takes care of them handily every single time he meets them, and he's not an overly large guy or anything. He just seems to know how to take care of himself. And also there's a lot of people falling out of windows, or especially going down the laundry chute. And of course, that kind of reminded me of the Most Dangerous Match with the poor old guy going into the garbage chute. And it really, them going down the laundry chute in this movie really fucks up Grogu. That's for sure. He's not very well off after that. He keeps having that neck issue. I think the most egregious thing about this movie for me is the sound effects. They go nuts when it comes to some of these sound effects, like that guy's neck, where it's just this big crunching noise when Uncle Marin fixes his neck. And yeah, there's just so many like tweets and wheedles and just little boops and beeps throughout this whole thing. But for the most part, it's a pretty solid comedy. Like I said, we've seen this type of story played out. We saw it definitely played out horribly in Funny Money. This whole idea of there being like 4 briefcases in that one, but no doubling of people. And I think the doubling helps here. You also mentioned the whole idea of like, oh, isn't it funny that there just happens to be a guy that looks exactly like this guy at this hotel. And then when they finally meet each other, there's no like, holy shit, you look exactly like me.
I need your help. I need your help. Okay, got it. Like,
boom, that's it.
It's kind of wild.
No wonder these people have been chasing me, because for the most part, he has no idea other than that woman that comes in and pulls a feint. And he's just like, well, you're completely faking, but I'm just going to play along with this. That works. And yeah, I think he figures out pretty quickly whose side she's on and then just starts feeding her bad information.
30 minutes and 17 seconds into the film is when Columbo shows up. This was not as bad as Funny Money, but it did have that same kind of funk of just, like you said, this scenario comedic situation is just not funny. It's funny, but it's not, because we've seen it so many other times done in such equally, or I guess not equally, because this is not as bad as Funny Money, but at times I didn't laugh a whole lot. Did you?
I laughed a few times.
But as a comedy, that's not a success if it made you laugh a couple times.
Right. I more smirked and chuckled throughout this.
A chortle or two, even.
Once Columbo shows up.
Once Columbo shows up, by the way.
I don't know if Andrea was paying attention while I was watching this, because normally she's just like, whatever. He's got to watch this for some reason.
I thought for whatever reason your wife played along more than that. I am so glad to know that your wife just is like, I don't care.
Yeah, no, not at all.
If it doesn't have a giant shark or a giant ape or a giant lizard, I don't care. Understandably so, frankly. Giant ape in suit MD.
When Columbo shows up, I go, this is why I'm watching this movie. It took her 2-3 seconds to look up, and by that time he was already off the screen. And I think it took another 15 minutes for him to just kind of wander in at some point.
But and then he is so like critical in the climax of the film. That's the really kind of frustrating part. Is he's literally like instrumental to the way the film ends, because he arrests the gangs at the end of the movie.
Yeah, this whole time. I mean, obviously Columbo is a cop, but it doesn't feel like he's in
the version of Columbo we are used to seeing.
Right. Yes. But it doesn't feel like he's in law enforcement in this.
Columbo
yes. Yeah, because he doesn't look a lot like Columbo.
Weird looking. He's like what are those things in Insurrection that F. Murray Abraham plays? The things with the face that's pulled back. I'm assuming it's because of the low res quality of the one I watched, or God knows what. But like when you initially see Columbo and he like looks around, he looks like one of those things. It's just like, I don't know if it's not a person in a mask. It's definitely not Peter Falk. There's a moment where he's like holding his head a certain way, and I know what he's going for, as do you, where he's like doing that thing where Columbo kind of lifts one of his eyes, but I'm just like, don't do that. Don't do that.
And he does the thing with the hand, with holding up the hand a few times.
Oh, no. He's smoking a cigar at one point.
And he's told he can't smoke on the plane when he's carting off all the bad guys. And he talks about how the woman reminds him of his wife. It's interesting because, yeah, he's not a central character.
No.
He's not a character.
Has there ever been another film you've seen that does something like this, where there's like a character from something else in the film? And again, I'd like to point out here, and this is the thing that's maybe the most frustrating of all, nobody makes note of the fact that it's just fucking Columbo. So 2 questions then come from this. Is Columbo a show in their universe, or does this take place in the universe of Columbo? And this is in fact Columbo in a weird Doctor Who, James Bond-esque way.
Well, to answer your earlier question, as far as a character who just kind of wanders in and you're like, what the hell is this character doing? The first thing that popped to mind was an old Warner Brothers cartoon called 8-Ball Bunny, where it is a penguin who somehow gets from Antarctica to wherever Bugs Bunny is at. And basically the whole thing becomes Bugs Bunny trying to get this penguin back home. And every once in a while, Humphrey Bogart wanders into the frame and delivers a line from The Treasure of the Sierra Madre about helping out a fellow American who's down on his luck.
Up her sleeve.
Say, pardon me, but could you help out a fellow American who's down on his luck?
Hit the road.
I had not seen The Treasure of the Sierra Madre when I was a kid, and I'm just like, what the hell? And I probably didn't even know who Humphrey Bogart was. I was just like, who the hell is this guy, and why is he doing this? And he just keeps coming back. I mean, it was probably like an 8-minute cartoon, and he probably shows up like 4 times. And I'm just like, what the heck is this? So that was the first thing that came to my mind as far as just a random pop culture reference, just being introduced to another story completely. It reminds me kind of like some of the more, well, for lack of a better term, loony comedies where it's just like, what the hell? Why is this happening? And we're just going to make a reference like, a bald guy shows up and puts a sucker in his mouth. And then it's like, okay, well, I guess that was a Kojak reference, but I'm not sure why it was here. But that was the first real one that came to mind. And then as far as, what was the other question you were talking about? Oh,
does Columbo exist in this universe? Or are we in the Columbo universe and this is Columbo?
That's a really good question because I don't know.
No one acknowledges the fact that he looks like Columbo. So I just have to go off the fact that nobody acknowledges that he's Columbo in the show. So this must just be Columbo. Not to say like this is Columbo canon, but you could get me there if you really wanted to.
There were times where I thought that only Gogu could see Columbo because it felt like it was only around that time. Yes.
The legend of Columbo Vance.
His imaginary helper or something. Yeah. Because Gogu just kind of dips out for a while after they push him down the laundry chute.
Yeah. Where does this rank in the CCU for you? The Columbo Connected Universe. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, you have just a bunch of shots of Peter Falk adjusting his tie.
Right, exactly. Just a big close-up of his false eye and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Na, 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 na. Excuse me, just one more thing. He does that. He even does that. He does that. God damn. I applaud them for putting it in here, but it is like almost feels like a thing that would exist in like a satire or a farce. And I get that that's what this is going for. It's just maybe because I'm not Romanian, I just don't get it. But like you said, we've seen this before in so many other languages. And I'm like, yeah, okay. I'm like, this was fine. The Columbo of it is the weird part. Like everything else is just kind of whatever in a lot of ways, like very just kind of a Romanian version of something we've seen in either English or another language. But the Columbo-ness of it all opens up some interesting avenues of discussion because it's super strange.
I was reminded a lot of Some Like It Hot while I was watching this. It probably helps that we just covered that on the projection booth, but I really think that there's something to that because there's a section towards the end where they're cross-cutting between 2 scenes, and one of the scenes is being scored by a tango, that whole bum 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 ba da 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 da, and I'm like, that's exactly what's going on with Jack Lemmon and Joe E. Brown, and that's being cross-cut with the whole scene of Marilyn Monroe and Tony Curtis when she's trying to help him with his erectile dysfunction. So I am pretty sure that they're going for that. Also, the whole idea of this taking place at a hotel, the mistaken identity, some of the things like the jokes around the elevator, like when the elevator door opens and you see that Uncle Marin has dispatched all of these creeps, these gangsters that they have. I'm like, I feel like they're building it on some pretty good foundation when it comes to some of these jokes. And, you get the whole thing of like the one guy trying to hurt Uncle Marin's feet. And he's just like, oh, how many corns do you have, to the guy who wasn't able to take him out. And he's just like, oh yeah, basically like my feet are made out of corns or whatever. There's nothing you can do to hurt me. That whole sequence I thought was pretty good. Him trying to buy that lamb vest for his wife.
Anything that works in terms of the comedy goes through the Uncle Marin / the billionaire character. I think that's the most fun the movie has, is kind of playing off of the misunderstandings that his character has, and just the actor's performance, I think, is also pretty good in terms of the physical comedy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they do some good jobs too when it comes to the actor walking out of the room, and then from behind some curtains, you see the double of him walking the other way. Does a good job of hiding his face, so you don't see that it's not that actor, but a double. I think some of those things are really good. And even the scene where they meet each other, of course, there's a lot of like, single on, head on, one shot type of things. It looks pretty good. And I also like that they're doing it in front of a mirror to bring forth even the idea of like this whole thing being doubled once again. I thought that was a nice thing. And it's not just the doubling of the people, but it's the doubling of the briefcase. So you never know, is it this person with the correct briefcase, or is it the wrong person with the right briefcase?
And they look the same for the most part throughout most of the movie. Like they're just dressing a little bit differently, but they're not even giving him anything to distinguish one another from one another.
I found it interesting too. We're talking about this whole idea of, Columbo impersonations and things. This is 1 year before Murder Can Hurt You, which we should probably say we are not going to cover on this show because we spoke about it pretty in depth on, it was Wake Up Heavy, I believe, right?
I think so. Many moons ago. 2 lifetimes ago, we talked about that.
Frankly, I don't really want to revisit that film.
Frankly, I don't even remember anything about it other than it was kind of not funny.
Burt Young as Columbo.
Yeah, that was fun. Sort of. This is...
And then you got to see Mrs. Columbo, and it wasn't Kate Mulgrew.
Right, because I put that out of my memory that we talked about that.
Oh, wow. You can't see Gavin MacLeod as Kojak, right in your head was...
Oh, no, I was talking about Mrs. Columbo.
Oh, Mrs. Columbo. Yeah, that was
talked about that
literally
a month ago. And I just completely put it out of my memory. I think it was all of that forget grew. That's what they call it. You grow it so you... Yeah, no, I have literally forgot we talked about Mrs. Columbo. Primarily because this was at least more of a fun diversion than that. I will give you that.
Yeah, like I said, Columbo doesn't come in here and try to solve this mystery or whatever. He just kind of is wandering around. Yeah.
We have to have a cop, so I guess the most famous cop in Hungary was Columbo.
Or Romania.
Yeah. Or anywhere that's not in the United... So I don't understand. Was he was so famous in all these countries?
Yeah. Well, obviously, and this is, like we said, right after the 7th season. So, yeah, he's on top of the world. Imagine
Peter
what would have
Falk,
happened.
Big in Romania.
Yeah. Imagine what would have happened if he had kept doing shows into the 80s.
They would have elected him president.
President Columbo.
I mean, it's crazy how popular he is. But I'm glad because, there are a lot worse people you could, as a country, kind of idolize in terms of solving mysteries.
Also, right around the same time is something that I watched forever ago, which was in 1978. I think it was it might have been the Dean Martin roast, but that was when Columbo, aka Peter Falk, showed up to roast Frank Sinatra. And it's like, okay, so he's doing these bits outside of the show. He's actually sending himself up by going on these, the roast and everything. I don't know when Johnny Carson would have a Columbo regular thing that he would do on the Tonight Show, but yeah, it's at home and abroad.
So what you're saying is if we were able to have Peter Falk around now, he might just show up randomly on our show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The ghost
Why
of
not?
Columbo.
Just to call in via Skype, even though we're not on Skype anymore.
Calling through dead Skype, yeah. Ooh. It's me, Peter Falk calling. Good for him. Good for him, you know? I don't know. Does that devalue the brand, though?
I don't know. I think it was pretty damn funny to have him roasting Frank Sinatra. I don't think he did it too much.
Yeah, if you're the guy, I guess you're kind of the one who can choose to do it.
I want to tell you it was a beautiful introductory speech. Thank you for the introduction. One quick question, if you don't mind. Those shoes, they're not rented. I feel a little self-conscious being here because I'm not dressed. But, well, I knew it was a big affair, but I didn't know that I was going to be brought up here. I mean, if I had known, well, I don't know what I would have done because this is all I got. But, you know, when I got the invitation, I was at home. It was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. You know that they come in the form of a telegram. They don't come in a regular mail. So they send you a wire. And I counted the words, 63 words. You can imagine what that cost. I don't know if you know that. Oh, here it is. I got it right here with me. See, this is the way you get invited here to this. Now, this is not a night letter. This is a regular telegram.
But as far as him showing up by other actors, like a Burt Young, or the actor in this film, whose name I'm not going to try to pronounce.
Puiu Călinescu. Could be right, could be wrong.
Ceaușescu was still in power at this time. He still had 10 years to go before he passed away. So yeah, they were definitely under a dictatorship. It's funny, we talked about, on the projection booth, we talked about a film from 1968, which was a basically Romanian new wave film, and that got shut down pretty darn quickly as far as
you didn't save that for
wave.
my show? Wow, I'm disappointed. I didn't get to indulge in Romanian new wave.
No, Romanian new wave. Yeah, you had all those Japanese new wave all those years ago. So, but yeah, instead we just have this dude that shows up trying to find a pencil, can't find a light. Yeah, all these things. So it's pretty spot on as far as that stuff goes.
I mean, look, this guy, you know, even if there were no subtitles and no audio, I would know exactly what they were going for. It's not a surprise.
I had a good time. I think I might have enjoyed this one a little bit more than you, but it's not something I'm going to rush out and say, oh my God, you have to see this movie.
Yeah, I can't say it was bad. I think I'm in the same boat as you. Like, it was fine. You enjoyed it more than me, but it was fine.
I think I might have enjoyed this more than Vibes, but I'm not going to ask you to watch that movie.
Vibes.
Yes, with Peter Falk, Cyndi Lauper, and Jeff Goldblum.
That sounds great.
Yeah, it's when Jeff Goldblum got to actually act against Peter Falk rather than just holding a protest sign as he was protesting that fake Middle Eastern country.
Is it not good?
It's not that good, no. I think there will probably be a lot of people that do like that movie, just maybe they grew up and it was on HBO, but I remember watching it not that long ago and not really caring for it that much. It was
Peter Falk
fine.
And Cyndi Lauper, huh?
Yeah. And they play psychics. I think all three of them might be psychics. Thus the name Vibes.
You're depriving me of this film and you made me watch Uncle Yip-de-Doo and the Boogaloo Twins?
All right. We'll watch Vibes.
I'm much more interested in watching the Japanese version of Columbo.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get there. I think in the timeline, it might come later into the 80s, 90s. That might even be the 2000s. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, I'll have to verify what that is. Because, yeah, those have been hanging out in our Dropbox for a long damn time. Because from the earliest days of talking about doing this, which now we've done 7 whole seasons. And, yeah.
How long have we been doing this show for?
Yeah, 2021. I put that Chevy Mystery Show, the early version of Columbo out there, 9/11/2021. So never
9/11,
forget.
Columbo did 9/11.
Yeah, yeah. And then I've got an article about Japan and Columbo I put out there back in 2023. So yeah, we've been doing this for a while.
Just one more thing. You're telling me that Tower 5 fell on its own?
Well, Chris, when you are not talking about obscure Romanian films, where can people find you?
Oof, you can find me over at the Culture Cast, where I talk about obscure Romanian films every day. No, I don't. I talk about everything else, including new stuff, old stuff I want to talk about, stuff that I've seen. So yeah, come on down and take a listen if that's your thing. But more importantly, weirdingwaymedia.com is where you can go to listen to all the shows that Mike and I work on and the shows that we don't, which is even better if you're not interested in hearing our voices, but the voices of our contemporaries. So head on over and check those out. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, same damn thing. Same damn thing.
Except for that pesky James Bond show that's going the way of the dodo.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, who knows if it'll even still be there, because we are just about to wrap that up and have yet to decide what we're doing afterwards. But as soon as we know, you'll be the next people to find out.
The films of Martin Mull.
It was 32 takes, and that was the best one.
That was the best one.